But James Paxton is 100% a Mariner. A 1 year, $8.5 million deal with incentives to get him up to 10 million if he reaches those. The Maple Grove is back. It's a good day.
It's a good day, and considering there was a lot of frustration because about a week prior to the signing, it somehow leaked, it somehow got out there that James Paxton had actually reached out to the Mariners saying he wants to sign with the Mariners. Like, he was very interested. Like, hey, let's work out a deal. Let's figure this out. And the Mariners kind of denied it. The Mariners were like, nope, sorry. Like, don't need you, don't want you. From our understanding, I mean, who knows what actually went on behind the scenes, but that was what was reported. So everyone was pissed that we weren't going to get James Paxton. I mean, maybe it was a negotiation tactic. I don't know. Maybe it just was some news I got told that was just an absolute rumor. But I did not see this signing coming at all. At all.
I could even see, Scott Boras is his agent who, he likes to play a little bully ball. I could see him even leaking some stuff like the Mariners aren't interested in this deal. Boris isn't really known for the 1 year deal, and so there must not have been a huge market for James Paxton big money, which it was leaked that he wanted. They were looking for a multiple $11 million a year deal, and I just don't think his market was like that after only pitching in 5 games last year. It was a shorter season, but he came off a pretty bad injury, and I think there's probably some concern around his innings, around how many games he'll appear in. And why not come home 6-man rotation this year, have a chance to build up that arm, get paid next year when the market maybe bounces back. It seems like a no-brainer for Paxton here. And at the same time, a no-brainer for the M's who get a veteran, super good guy. The fans love James Paxton. As the King's Court was kind of winding down, we got the Maple Grove. Smart play by the Mariners. I remember my first thought was, man, are they just going to always give someone a little fan section? But no, James Paxton is a really good pitcher. And
right.
So his incentives, if he hits 10 games, so if he appears in 10 games this year, he gets 750,000. And if he appears in 20 games, he gets another 750,000. Even in the 6-man rotation, he's going to have the ability to get past 20 games if he stays healthy. So it's a little bit of a bet on yourself. You get 8.5 guaranteed, so you don't. It's not too big of a risk for James. But man, I'm a big fan of this signing. The money, it's just a good deal. Like I heard we outbid the Mets, who probably hate Mariners. I tweeted that earlier this week. The Mets fans must shake when they hear the name Jerry DiPoto after we stole Kellenic from them. Now we just barely get Paxton. And they're supposed to be a contender, so they're probably bummed. But I'm very excited about this deal.
Well, and on top of it, we're within the same. I know this is a bummer, but we're in a rebuild. It's within the same rebuild. We gave up Paxton to get Sheffield, and now we just got Paxton back. Like DiPoto, we got Paxton back on essentially a better deal than what he was probably worth at that given time, most definitely. And we're now getting him back. And yeah, he's coming off an injury, but we both now have Paxton and Sheffield. It's like we got Sheffield for free almost, and we just loaned out Paxton.
You're right. Having a year where you get both those guys in the same rotation feels honestly like a bonus. It's like a sweet treat, man. You get these two lefties who Sheffield last year, if he can replicate what he did in a shortened season, if he can do that in a long season, he's not a good pitcher. He's up there with the great pitchers. He had a really good year last year. And so, yeah, this is awesome to have these guys in the same rotation.
Yeah, I get Paxton's coming off an injury, and it's, you always get worried about that with a pitcher because this is the next thing, Tommy Johns, you don't know. But like, if you look at his years, he had one bad year, and it was 2020.
Yeah.
Like, he had that, if we want to go off ERA, but like, it was only 20 innings pitched. So barely any innings. It was just the funkiest of years. But his ERAs prior to that, like the worst one he had was let's just call it a 3.8 because the other one's early in his career. But like a 3.8 ERA, which, if you're looking at the FIP, it's a 3.8. So you could say it's pretty true.
But that was on some Mariners teams that did not have very good defense either.
Well, that was when 2019. So that was a full
Okay.
season with the Yankees, actually. But the one with the Mariners, he was putting 3.7 like up pretty much consistently, and a 3.2. Like, I'm surprised he couldn't actually lock in that 11-year, like 11 million, multiple years. Like, the fact that we got him 1 year, 8 million is a steal. He is old, though. He is old. That could really be hurting him. He is 32 and an injury combined. Tough. And a slow free agency market as is. So
I will say that, the Mariners, we haven't been in the playoffs in 20 years now. There's all this talk, repeatedly, what are they doing by people that maybe aren't following the team as closely as you and I do, with the farm system being as good as it is. And I will say this, they have built a culture, specifically while Jerry DiPoto's back, where two of their solid pitchers that they have traded away are coming back to a place in order to build themselves up to go out and get a deal. Last year, we had Taijuan Walker come back. Jerry DiPoto traded him away in the deal for Mitch Haniger and Gene Segura years ago. And Jake Fraley, I think, was in that. And now he's going to have a chance. I think this year he's going to get paid. He's probably the best pitcher out in the market. So we'll see what happens. We would prefer that to be with the Mariners. We'd like him to get paid here. But now, a year later, James Paxton's coming back to, hey, yeah, I'll pitch in your rotation, get my worth up, and go out there. There's two sides of this. One, it's a bummer that the Mariners aren't in a spot to probably compete right now and use these pitchers to make it. But on the other hand, to have an environment, to have a culture where good pitchers want to come back to rebuild and to be a part of a system where they feel comfortable is really important, that we're building that culture. And so I think that really proves that what's going on with the Mariners is a good thing. And I'm excited to watch James Paxton again.
You bring up a good point of what we did last year with Taijuan. It was a 1-year deal with Ty, and he pitched really well, and we traded him away. Whether you like it or not, it's what we did.
Yeah.
Do we do the same with Paxton? We're at All-Star break. Paxton's having a great year. There are some teams on the push. We're probably not going to make it to the playoffs, right? We're not in that hunt.
Yeah.
Do we trade Paxton away, or do we try to lock him into that multiple year deal at that point?
I would probably say, it's really dependent on the situation, right? Like, if the Mariners are a fringe 500 team, you can't trade them away. You can't trade away a guy when you could potentially sneak into that wild card spot. There's still rumors the playoffs could expand to up to 12 teams instead of regular 10. If that's the case, you hold on to Paxton for sure for that playoff push. But there's a decent chance that we're sitting well below 500 at the All-Star break. I think that's a real possibility. And if that's the case, you definitely trade him for a piece. And what we've seen, Taijuan Walker has said that he'd be willing to come back to Seattle. So it's not like the Mariners and him are on bad terms after the trade. I don't think that's the case at all. He got to go to a contender, got to pitch in the playoffs with the Blue Jays last year.
Right.
If you trade a player away to build your team and put them in a position where they get to be on a playoff team, I don't think anyone's upset about that. It's kind of like a 2-month vacation to go pitch in the playoffs.
So I mean, truly, I don't. I mean, we could go down. My thoughts are, if you look at our future lineup coming down the way, I've seen people report that Gilbert might came up in May and June. I think that's a little early. I think he's going to come up later. But if Gilbert is really slaying it, if the minor leagues are going and is slaying it, and you have Paxton, see, this is where I go back and forth. I'd be okay with trading Paxton for a piece. Even if we're sitting at a 500.
Are you talking about if the Mariners are playing well, trading him away?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like but there's, like you said, there's multiple things to this situation and variables, but like if Gilbert is playing well, because Gilbert's going to come up this year, hopefully, he's reported he should, and if he's playing well, he could take Paxton's spot, but you could also argue, well, he could take Flexen or Duns. Like I hate to break it to you, but one of those guys will probably be okay. The other one probably
Or
won't.
Marg. I'm just gonna call Margavicius Marg these days because I can't pronounce it.
But no one can, besides Nia. Like, oof. But like, I mean, I don't know. Like Paxton, if he's doing well, keep it going and trade him.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say.
I would hold on to him if you're a potential contender, because here's the thing. James Paxton at his peak is by far the best pitcher on our team next year. Maybe not by far. That might be giving Marco enough justice. Marco is a great pitcher, but as far as stuff, Paxton throws harder. Paxton,
True.
Paxton, at the end of the day, his peak is probably higher than Marcos. Yeah. And so here's a question for you. Opening day starter.
Oh, Marco. It's hands down. Marco's been with the team. He's produced great years. He's coming off an awesome year. You don't know what Paxton's going to necessarily give you. It's Marco.
Okay. I agree with you. But I want to say in a vacuum, it's probably James Paxton.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you aren't trying to build right now for the Mariners, it's more important to keep Marco happy than to throw James Paxton as the opening day starter. Like, yeah, Marco is a part of a foreseeable future, whereas James Paxton's probably just here for this year, realistically.
Right. I mean, so I guess let's run through our lineup right now.
For rotation?
Our whole rotation, not the whole Mariners lineup. We don't need to go through that. Let's do the pitching rotations. You got Marco at 1. You got Paxton at 2.
Yep.
You got Sheffield at 3. And then from there, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Well, I think 4 is Kikuchi, would be my bet. 5,
it'd be Kikuchi,
Flexen. I think those are all locked. Now, Kikuchi and Flexen might flop. Maybe Flexen's like amazing in spring training. They're like, yeah, this is our 4 starter, not our 5.
Right.
Now, what's fun is there's a few spots left for the 6th spot, and 2 names have been thrown out. You got Nick Margavicius, aka the man I can't pronounce, and then you've got Justin Dunn, who I think last year people were pretty hyped in coming into the season. Now we're all a little worried. Can he be consistent? Can he throw? I think LJ Newsome should also be in that mix, who was pretty good when he came up last year. Kind of this sleeper guy who had his velocity go up a lot coming into last season and is just consistent. Not necessarily going to blow you away with stuff, but can hit his marks, can pitch down and away, can do all the stuff that you really need him to do. If there were weird bets, I mean, there's not really probably a good betting market for who the 6th starter would be, but I bet you that LJ Newsome's odds would be terrible, and that's a guy I'd want to bet on because he has already come up through the system. He's already defying so many odds that this guy came up and pitched well last year. Maybe not great, but he was just as good as Dunn and just as good as Marg. So I think that there's a chance that he could be the 6th man rotation as well. And then Gav, I know you mentioned Gilbert already, and I don't know what the contract's like as far as him being able to pitch on opening day or not, but there's 100% a chance that he could just destroy spring training. And if the contract's not the same as Kelenics, where he can't come up for a couple weeks due to trying to keep him for a couple extra years, I do think Gilbert should be in the conversation to make the team as well. So there's kind of 4 guys that could be a part of this conversation.
Right. I mean, it's good to see that, because considering where we've been in the past. But I mean, realistically, speaking of Gilbert, I don't want him to make that leap given last year's no minor league. Like, the risk is really high for him to come up and just really get his head not right. Like it happened with Sheffield and other players that came to the majors way too fast, and they kind of got shook by it a little bit. Took a hit to the ego. I hope that doesn't happen, even if he destroys spring training. I think that's a great, that's awesome. It's what we want, but let him sit in the minors for at least a month or two. But I think, yeah, you're right. Like he will be in the conversation sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I actually, I shamefully forgot about LJ Newsome. The dude's young. He's 24 and he came out and he had some good performances and some bad performances. So like it showed that he has potential. And I mean, he got called up kind of, if I remember correctly, it was kind of like, hey dude, yep, you're coming up. Like we need you because we were just that thin.
The injuries were bad last year for the
right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what we really though are going to be lacking is what I think what a lot of people under the misconception is because Kyle Lewis and Seager and some other players make up for this, is our pitching actually, given that we've added like Middleton and whatnot into our bullpen, our pitching is actually going to be, I'm going to use the word decent this year. It's our bats that are bad.